talk about New Orleans for a second, because we have focused a lot of our attention on New Orleans because of great concern about the number of people there and the fact that it is so low-lying. We're told that upwards of 80% of the people who live in that city follow the mandatory evacuation orders, which is a pretty impressive number in a city that is used to hurricanes, is used to, quite frankly, a lot of near misses. But in this case, many people have listened, and many people, those who had no other options, no other place to go, didn't have the proper transportation, ended up in the Louisiana Superdome, where normally the New Orleans Saints play. Well, perhaps about 10,000 souls in there praying to some saints right now. Among them is Ed Reams. He is with our affiliate WDSU. He's here to tell us about the power going out and what that means for the people inside. Ed?
Hey, Miles. Yes, I'm sitting right in the end zone of the Saints field right here inside the Superdome. As you mentioned, we have seen a power outage here in the Superdome. The Superdome does run on emergency power, but on emergency power, we can't operate the air conditioning, which may make it very uncomfortable for the 10,000 plus people that are inside the Superdome right now seeking shelter from Hurricane Katrina. We've seen a number of power hits throughout the morning. This one is lasting the longest. In fact, from reports through our reporters from our station throughout the downtown area, it seems like power is out to most of the central business district right now. We've also gotten reports from people who've called in to our station saying that they've seen roofs starting to peel off near the downtown area. We've also had reports of broken glass, a lot of flying debris in this area. That's why these folks are in the Superdome. They're seeking shelter from that very threat, the threat of flying debris, the threat of rising water possibly if we see that large storm surge. But if you look up, if you've ever been inside the Superdome, it's pretty immense. And if you look up, what we're seeing now is the rafters seem to be rattling up here, making a lot of people very anxious. The management of the Superdome here in New Orleans is pretty confident that the integrity of this building will be maintained despite the fact that Katrina is probably the largest hurricane that this area will face and has faced in quite some time. So right now, without power here in the Superdome, operating on emergency power right now, but it may take away some of the creature comforts that these folks have been enjoying for a number of hours. Number one, air conditioning, and that may be a major problem once Katrina moves on and the heat here in the Gulf Coast region returns. Miles?
Ed, correct me if I'm wrong, the roof of the Superdome, isn't it one of those sort of Teflon-type roofs?
That is the skin of the roof. The roof is actually pretty thick. If you remember, the roof was replaced. They put on a new type of Teflon skin, a kind of waterproof skin, but that doesn't mean that the roof itself is very thin. The Superdome was built over 25 years ago, and it is almost like a bunker. It's one of the safest places here in New Orleans. In fact, the only shelter that the city of New Orleans even opened. It was called a shelter of last resort. Of course, they wanted most of the population to get out of town, not wanting the population to rely on the Superdome as a shelter. But many of these folks are ones that either A, couldn't get out of town, or B, were on the fence and then saw the seriousness of Katrina and decided at the last minute that it was too late to evacuate it and needed to get to a safe place. So 10,000 plus people in here right now. Everybody's behaving themselves, but obviously very anxious with just the sounds of Katrina around us. If I may make one more observation to you, Miles, there's so much movement from this wind that we're in such a large building. All the undulation and pressure from the wind outside is almost changing the air pressure within the Superdome. You can almost feel it in your ears, that the wind outside pushing and moving the Superdome in so many different directions. It's almost, you can almost feel it in the air. So it's causing a lot of concern for folks here who are seeking shelter. Miles?
Boy, that is a thought. Let me ask you one more question before you get away, Ed. The temperature here where I'm standing is 73 degrees. And that's typically what happens during hurricanes. It's not too bad. And then really the day after, it gets very, very hot, very humid. Right now, where you are, I assume it's about the same. The concern might be in subsequent days if people get stuck there.
Right, exactly. And the National Guard, there's over 200 National Guard personnel here at the Superdome. They've been bringing in water, pallets of food. But what they're also going to be doing is keeping people in the Superdome until it's actually safe to leave. During Hurricane George back in 1998, the last time the Superdome was used for evacuation, many people had to stay here 3.5 days. There were some pretty hot tempers because the sun was shining outside, but they were not allowed to go home. The National Guard says that will happen here. There's no sense in letting people out of the safest place in New Orleans if we're surrounded by floodwaters, if we're surrounded by down power lines, damaged homes, and especially if emergency services have not even had the opportunity after the storm passes to get in and to assess exactly just what kind of damage this city faced. So a lot of these people, they may think that they are prepared to be here for a while, but we just don't know how much damage Katrina could cause. So these folks may be here for quite some time. Miles?
Ed Reams is with our affiliate WDSU. He joins us on the line from inside the Superdome. Thank you very much. They're not allowing television cameras in there for privacy reasons, so it's good to hear from Ed and get a sense of what's going on inside as 10,000 folks weather the storm inside the Superdome without the main power. They have emergency power, which means dim lights and no air conditioning. Well, if you know anything about New Orleans, no air conditioning is a big deal. Maybe not this moment, but in days to come if they remain stranded there. Our coverage of Hurricane Katrina now making landfall, having made landfall within the past 45 minutes, on its way to who knows what and how much damage, continues after a break. Stay with us.